Hi guys, it's Skye from Miss Skye Digital Marketing here on YouTube, and today I want to talk about working remotely, specifically in digital marketing. If you guys don't know, I've been working remotely for over a year now, so even before COVID, I was working remotely. So the transition was a little different for me than most people. A lot of people couldn't go to work, obviously, and so a lot of people now are looking for remote jobs. And I feel like I have a lot of information on this topic. I have people asking me about it all the time, so I decided to make a video about it and shed some light on, working remotely versus working in person, the pros and cons to each, and what is best for you, and just the situation that we are in now as a country and planet. So I initially wanted to start working remotely because I wanted to move to another city. I wanted to move to Seattle, Washington, and I wasn't in the city at the time, so I was thinking about ways I could do that while still making income during the move. And so I decided to start looking for remote work. So while I was still working at the agency, I started to look for remote work, and I was luckily able to find some. And so beginning of January or like December was when I started, and then I didn't actually leave my other job until the end of January. So there was some time where I was able to get in the flow of working remotely at home, and then also still be working at an agency. And by the way that I mean like getting a job, I was just getting clients. So I was able to get a client, cover my expenses, do all that stuff so I could leave my agency job so I could move to Seattle. So when I moved to Seattle, I was like, okay, do I want to work in a co-working space? Do I want to work from home? Do I want to do all these things? And so when you are working remotely, it's amazing because you have all this freedom, you have all this, time. Your laptop is your best friend. If any of you guys knew me or anything, you would know that my laptop is with me everywhere I go, because anytime I leave, even if I'm not technically working, I still like to make sure that my ads are doing okay. And so I just bring it with me everywhere. So that's another thing that you have to get used to if you are working remotely. But yeah, so I've done the whole co-working thing, and I've worked at home, and I worked in coffee shops, and it is great because, besides COVID right now limiting those things, it's really nice to have those options to, pick where you want to work. And I think that's a huge deal, and it's a huge blessing to have, is that I get to choose where I want to work. If I want to work in my bed, I can work in my bed. So it's amazing, and I would highly recommend it to anyone. The pros are, obviously, the timing is great, the free location is great. The top two, you get to work anywhere. It's an amazing feeling to be able to work remotely, and I do find myself taking advantage of it, because there'll be times where I'm like, oh, I don't have a place to work, and it's just, you get so used to it, and you get so used to just working everywhere. It's a mindset that I honestly cannot explain unless you've done it. And once you've done it, you'll understand what I'm talking about, because working remotely is, it's a skill. There's no one nagging you in the office. There's no people around you telling you about all this stuff. It's all just over emails and Zoom, and so it's way different than having people next to you trying to remind you about all these things. So if you're a person that really procrastinates, which I still do sometimes, which is fine. It's a bad habit, but we're getting used to it. But just find ways to make sure that you don't procrastinate. And so I'll set myself like little alarms, or I'll like make a calendar of the day to see what I need to do today to make sure that I get it all done, and then the timing between those things, because it's nice to track your time. It's nice to see where you're at during your day. So I would highly recommend doing that if you procrastinate, or you just like to keep track of everything, based on who you're working for, or if you have clients on your own. I'm going to express the cons now of remote working. Obviously, the big no-brainer is that you're not around people, and so if you're an extrovert, which I am introverted and extroverted, but if you want to extrovert at work, then working remotely is not for you. And when I say this, is that even though you are on Zoom and you're on email, it's still not the same as someone who's working remotely. When I was at my old job, I actually was able to work remotely for a few days because I was sick. I had a migraine, and that was like my first time of really getting a taste of remote working, and I found out that I loved it, but you know, I still was missing my coworkers. There was things I want to talk about in person. I just couldn't communicate over email. And so that is one thing, is that, I mean, that would probably just be my main con of remote working, is that you're not around people. But, you know, once it's actually safe to go to co-working spaces again, I would highly recommend, if you're an extrovert or if you just like being around people, you know, go to a coffee shop or work, you know, at a co-working space. They're really amazing. It's a great vibe. It's a great way to be able to make new friends and meet new people and just be in a space that is dedicated to working. If you find yourself that you're not comfortable working, you know, in your room or somewhere, find a space, dedicate a space to you that is dedicated just for working, because, you know, sometimes you know, working from your bed sounds nice until you just try to start doing it and it just doesn't work. But that's okay. You can dedicate a space and it will be fine. I would like to say that anyone that is looking to look into remote work because of COVID, I would highly recommend doing it, because we don't know how long this is going to go for. We don't know how long the workspace is. I live in Seattle, and I know that just from my intuition and just knowing the community, I have an Amazon office, Facebook, Google, a lot of huge tech companies in downtown Seattle. They are not open, and they probably will not be open for the rest of the year. And so if you are wanting to look into tech, which I know a lot of people are now, and that's amazing, just do know that you're probably most likely going to be working remotely for a second. Depending on what city you're in and depending on what company you're in is a huge factor. So if you guys are looking into working remotely, I do recommend it. I think it's a great way to adult. I don't know. It's really taught me how to be an adult, because there's no people around you. There's no one breathing down your neck, you know, physically. So you have to kind of be that person for yourself, and I think that's really the fun of it all. I hope you guys find this video interesting, helpful, informative. If you guys have any more questions about working remotely, please let me know. If you guys want to learn how I was able to work remotely, you can check the link down below, the course that I took to land my first digital marketing job, and was able to work remotely 3 years later. So if you're looking to go into digital marketing, I would check it out. I will talk to you guys soon, and bye.